Okay, I'm going to get started this morning by just officially welcoming all of you guys. Sawadee Kap, Sawadee Kap. Welcome to all of you guys. Welcome to Wat Tung. I would like to just say welcome to this class where we're going to be sharing the teachings of the Buddha to help you to understand what it takes to get to the enlightened mental state. I'd like to welcome those of you guys that are here at the temple and everyone who's joining us online. Today's class is part of a group learning program where on Sundays and Wednesdays I get together with students and help them to understand a foundation on the teachings of the Buddha. On Saturdays we have other programs, and we have other programs throughout the months and throughout the weeks where you can join and you can learn the teachings of the Buddha that will help you get to the enlightened mental state. What enlightenment is where the mind is peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. It no longer experiences any discontent feelings. So by the time you get to enlightenment, you don't experience any anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, jealousy, any kind of discontentedness whatsoever, any kind of resentment or hostility. It's all eliminated from the enlightened mind through training of the mind. You eliminate the causes and conditions that are producing these feelings to arise. And by doing so, you can move your mind to this enlightened mental state. Meditation is part of that training, but there's other things you need besides that as well. So what I do in each one of these classes, I start with meditation in order to help you guys to understand how to meditate and actually do some meditation together. But then on Wednesdays, what I do is I just open up to any and all questions that you guys have, where typically on other days I have scheduled talks where I'm actually teaching you specific topics that are going to help you along the path. On Wednesdays, I tend to leave it as a free-form question day. I probably will talk a little bit at the end of meditation just to give you guys a little bit of a more introduction to the teachings of the Buddha, just a little piece of that. And then I'll open up to any and all questions that you guys have here at the temple and those of you guys online as well. As you guys would like to ask questions, we have microphones here in the white bowl that has a gray button. You just press the gray button, the lights will come on, you just wait a second or so and you hold it up to your chin, and then we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and we'll be able to hear you online as well. And for those of you guys online, you can ask your question by putting it into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom. Or in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand and open up your microphone, and we'll be able to hear you here at the temple. So if you'd like to join for meditation, I'll give you guys a little bit of a understanding of how I do that. I start with chanting to ease us into meditation, and I see somebody handed out the chanting sheets. These chants are in the Pali language. This is the original language that the teachings of the Buddha are captured in. And during his lifetime, he used chanting as a way to help his students commit the teachings to memory. So every 2 weeks, they would get together and they would recite his teachings word for word for word for word, because it was an oral tradition at that time. They didn't write his teachings down. So these chants, they're not a rite, a ritual, or a ceremony or worship. It's not prayer or anything like that. In fact, if you read the English translations, I suspect the Buddha didn't even create these chants himself, because as you see in the English translations, there's a lot of admiration and gratitude and appreciation and respect for the Buddha in these chants. And a Buddha doesn't walk around teaching other people to chant things to him as a way to honor him and respect him, because he would have eliminated his ego, he would have eliminated his arrogance, he wouldn't have seen himself as being above anybody or below anybody, he would just see himself as being equal to everybody. So he wouldn't have gone around teaching people to chant these things to him. But if you would have learned from a teacher how to move your mind from anger and sadness and frustration and all these other discontent feelings to the peace and joy of the enlightened mind, and they didn't want anything from you or they didn't expect anything from you, you'd probably have a lot of respect and gratitude for that person too. So I suspect that these chants were created by his students. So I use these chants to ease us into meditation in order to get more benefit out of the meditation. We don't need to chant any longer in order to remember the teachings, because we have them in books, we have them in videos and podcasts and all different ways to capture the teachings. But I still do chanting for many different reasons, and I teach the chanting at different times in different programs. But one of the reasons why I do this is it helps ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. So as I'm chanting, you guys are welcome to join along and chant along if you like. After the chanting, you'll hear me come in with some guidance where I'll guide you in the meditation so you can actually learn how to be meditating while you're actually meditating. Then there'll be a period of time when it'll just be quiet and we'll just be meditating together. Those of us here at the temple and everyone online will just be meditating together. I'm sure you'll hear an occasional sound here or there, maybe a dog barking or a bird chirping, maybe a car going past. These things are all impermanent. You're not going to be able to meditate in permanent silence. It's just not possible. No matter where you are in the world, you're going to hear a sound occasionally from time to time. So when you hear these sounds, you'll hear all you need to do is bring your mind back to the breath. Then after we go through that period of time where it's quiet and we're just meditating, then we'll come out of the meditation with some more chanting. And from there, I'll go into a little bit of an introduction about the teachings of the Buddha for you, just a little piece of it, maybe just 5-10 minutes or so. And then that's where I'll open up to any and all questions you guys have related to the teachings of the Buddha. Anything that you've seen, anything you're hearing, anything that you've come across that you would like to ask, anything you've learned from me, if you've been learning with me, or you've been studying the resources that I share. If you have any and all questions, just a random question day. So if you'd like to join for meditation, usually we do this in one of 4 positions, either seated, lying, standing, or walking. And usually when you're first learning, seated is a common position, either sitting on the floor in a chair. Some people like to maybe sit on a bench or a sofa. It's not about everybody sitting in exactly the same way, because it's not possible for every body to be in the same exact position, because every body is different. And we'll find different things to be comfortable. But just to give you a few pointers, if you're on the floor, you might just sit with your legs lightly crossed rather than having them real tight. This will allow the circulation to flow. Some people like to put their legs off the mat, kind of put their rear on the mat. This gets their hips up in the air and lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles. And then for those of you guys in a chair, some people like to put their feet flat on the floor or cross at the ankles. Again, it's not about everybody doing it exactly the same way. Just do what's comfortable for you. And then with your hands in your arms, the Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. If this is comfortable for you, you could do this. But again, it's not about everyone doing it exactly the same way. So there's other options here as well. Some people like to put their palms on their thighs or on their knees. Some people put their palms up. Some people like to just rest their hands in their lap. So you find whatever's comfortable for you with your lower body and your hands and arms. The upper body should be erect. This keeps the mind attentive and alert during the meditation. Whereas if you were slouched, the mind would have a tendency to be dull or lethargic. But if you were real rigid with your upper body, your mind might be overactive or uptight. So you like the upper body to be erect where the sternum is up and the shoulders are back. This will help you to breathe in through the nose and get nice deep breaths. And it will also help your mind stay attentive and alert during the meditation. So again, I'm going to ease us into meditation with some chanting, and then I'll be back with some guidance. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakava Wat Tung Mahakavanhang Apivateyami Savakhato Mahakavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato สัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมะคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิโตอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังพุทโธภาควาติ Okay, with your lower body and hands and arms comfortable, in your upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath. A nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then, whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath. Either the sound of the breath coming into the nose, or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมะกะวาโอตังมหากวันหังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหากวตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหากวโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมะคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสคาโตโรกาวิโตอนุเตโรปุริสาธัมมาสติสัตตาตาวามานุสนังปุโตภะคะวะติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation, I would like to once again just welcome all of you guys. Those of you here at the temple and those of you guys that are joining us online, welcome to everyone. If this is your first time here at the temple, I'd like to just let you know that there's a bathroom in the very back of the room, the very last door on the right. You're welcome to use that at any time. We even have bathrooms outside the classroom. If you go outside and you see the signs that'll take you around to the main bathrooms for the temple, you're welcome to use the restroom anytime you like. We even have water over here that's provided by our students, and I'm even seeing some snacks starting to show up, so you're welcome to help yourself to some water or some snacks, whatever you'd like. Feel free to make yourself comfortable, make yourself at home. As I mentioned, as we go in our class today, you guys are welcome to ask any and all questions that you like. Today's a free-form question day where you can ask any questions related to anything that you like, related to the teachings of the Buddha, the path to enlightenment, meditation, maybe certain challenges and struggles you're having in daily life, anything that you're seeing in the world that you'd like to discuss or ask questions about. You're welcome to ask any and all questions that you like. We have microphones here in the front that have a gray button on it. You just press that button, the light will come on. It just takes a second or so to engage, and you hold that up to your mouth, and then we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online as well. And you can even keep that microphone with you because we have 6 of them, and you may need it again, or the people around you may need it, so you can share it as you guys take them off into the temple. And for those of you guys in Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, you can ask questions by putting it into the comment section, or in Zoom, you can raise your hand electronically and ask any questions that you like. So I'll start by just sharing a little bit about the teachings of the Buddha with you, so you have a frame of reference if you've never really been to a temple or you've never been learning the teachings of the Buddha. Everything that the Buddha taught is based on you accomplishing the ability to acquire wisdom. This wisdom that you acquire through learning his teachings, through reflecting on them to independently verify them, and then practice them is what's going to help you to awaken your mind to enlightenment. Getting to enlightenment and learning the teachings of the Buddha, it's not about a bunch of beliefs. You're not believing a bunch of things and then hoping something good happens when you die. Instead, you're learning teachings now. You're reflecting on those teachings to independently verify whether they're true or they're false. And then you're practicing the teachings in order to transform your mind and train your mind. And as you're doing this, you're uprooting certain pollutions that the Buddha discovered that is causing the mind to experience these discontent feelings. And as you're eradicating these pollutions of the mind, you'll notice the peace and the calmness, the serenity, the contentedness and the joy starting to come into the mind more and more. This is why you don't have to believe the teachings of the Buddha, because you'll see the results for yourself, that as you're gradually learning them and practicing them, you'll be able to see these improvements to the condition of your mind. So with belief, you don't know what's true or false. And if you don't know what's true or false, your mind can easily waver back and forth. But when you get to wisdom, when you see the truth for yourself through learning, reflecting to independently verify, and practicing, then you'll be able to have wisdom and you'll know what the truth is. So the Buddha describes to you the truth about the way the world is. He doesn't describe to you the way the world should be. And if you follow all these rules and you follow all these commandments, then the world's going to become a peaceful place. This isn't what the Buddha actually taught. He didn't teach rites, rituals, ceremonies, or worship. He didn't teach rules and commandments. He was explaining to you the natural world around you, and that by you understanding this natural world and getting to wisdom, now you'll navigate the world more readily. But when you don't understand the world that you live in, you'll struggle. You'll have difficulties. This is why your mind gets angry and sad and frustrated and irritated and annoyed and all those other discontent feelings, because the mind just doesn't understand the world that it lives in. It lacks certain wisdom. And as long as you lack wisdom, you'll tend to make unwise decisions that are going to lead to unwholesome results. But when you cultivate wisdom about the natural laws that the Buddha taught, then with that wisdom, you'll make wiser decisions that then produce wholesome results in your life. And one of those wise decisions is how to train your own mind and how to relate to the world around you and how to have harmonious relationships with people. But as long as you have these various pollutions in the mind that the Buddha discovered, you'll find it to be a challenge to do those kinds of things where you're having harmonious relationships with everybody. You might find that you are kind of bitter and harsh and hostile or aggressive or irritated or annoyed or disappointed. By the time you get to enlightenment, you don't even have the slightest ickiness in the mind, the slightest displeasure. You're just always in a good mood all the time. All the conditions that are causing the bad mood have been eradicated, and the mind's just always peaceful and joyful. You're always in a good mood. You'll notice you have focus and concentration, clarity, deep memory. Your personal and professional relationships will really blossom and they'll really grow. You'll be able to relate to all people around you, and you won't be bitter and harsh and hostile to people, so you won't be experiencing that coming back to you. Instead, you'll be loving and kind and compassionate and polite and respectful. But again, with pollution in the mind, you'll find it hard to do that with every single person in your life, particularly people like your parents or your siblings, your life partner. Maybe if you have children, you might find it very challenging to be loving and kind. Even though you have those types of things in your mind, you might find it very challenging to be loving and kind and respectful in all situations, because these pollutions are hindering the mind from being able to practice in such a way. And the mind just lacks wisdom. So the teachings of the Buddha are helping you to acquire this wisdom, because when you understand the wisdom of the world around you through these natural laws, you naturally make wiser decisions. So on this path to enlightenment, you're gradually awakening to this wisdom. So when we talk about awakening, what it means is that you're gradually developing wisdom more and more to be able to make wiser and wiser decisions in the world. And you'll be able to see that wisdom through learning the teachings of the Buddha and then not believing them, but reflecting on them to verify them and then practicing them. So the same thing has occurred as you were growing up through life. There were other natural laws besides the ones that the Buddha taught that your mind wasn't aware of, and you struggled and you had difficulties with that natural law. The natural law that I'm talking about is the natural law of gravity, that every single one of us had difficulties with this natural law when we were growing up. We made all kinds of unwise decisions. We fell down, we hit our head, we bumped our elbows, we maybe broke open our knees, we maybe broke our toys. We had all these difficulties difficulties and struggles. This natural law of gravity was affecting us, whether we were aware of it or not. When we were 1 year old, 2 years old, 3 years old, this natural law was affecting us, and we really struggled with it. We cried and we were upset and we were struggling. But then slowly but surely over time, we started learning the wisdom of this natural law. We didn't believe in it. We saw it for ourselves. We saw the truth. And we started making wiser decisions. We started tying our shoes a little bit tighter. We started looking at the surface of the sidewalk as we were walking. We stopped being so giddy and jumpy all the time we were walking around. And now we got to the point, by the time we were 10, 12, 14 years old, that we were fully awake to this natural law of gravity. And now we can ride bicycles, we can climb ladders, we can get on airplanes and fly all over the place because we're fully awake to this natural law of gravity. If there's certain things that are maybe going to tip over or break, we know not to put those in front of us or to put those in a safe place. Not because somebody told us to, not because it's a rule or commandment, but we're just making wise decisions because we understand the wisdom of the natural law of gravity, that if we put this cup in front of me, then it's going to more likely get tipped over. So I naturally put it behind me, which is a wiser decision, that it won't get tipped over and it won't get spilled. And not because somebody told me to, or not because I believe it, but because I know that's the truth. So we make wiser decisions when we have the wisdom of natural laws. So there's a primary natural law that the Buddha taught, which is called the natural law of karma. You might have heard this referred to as the natural law of karma. This word karma is from the Sanskrit language, where the word karma is from the Pali language. And the original teachings of the Buddha are in the Pali language, so people tend to use the word karma that study the original teachings of the Buddha. If this word translated to just one English word, I would just use that one English word, but unfortunately it doesn't translate to just one English word. So I still need to use the word karma. And like I mentioned, you might have heard it referred to as karma, right? So this word karma, or the natural law of karma, it doesn't mean punishments and rewards. It's not this mystical or magical thing. It's not any being that's overseeing it. It's not somebody turning it on or turning it off. It's not even about who's at fault or who's to blame. This natural law of karma is cause and effect, or action and result. It's your decisions, it's your life, and it's your results. As you make certain decisions in your life, you're going to experience certain results. And when you have a lack of wisdom, you're going to naturally make unwise decisions that are going to produce unwholesome results. And this is why we fell down and we hit our head and we had all kinds of other issues. But when you awaken to wisdom and you have wisdom about something, you're going to make wise decisions that produce wholesome results. So there's this natural law of karma, of cause and effect, or action and result, that you're being affected by, whether you're aware of this natural law or not. And you're not interested in believing in this natural law, but you're interested in being able to see the truth for yourself of this cause and effect, or this action and result. Essentially the results of your decisions, the causality of the various decisions that you make, they're going to produce certain results. You're either going to experience wholesome results when you make wise decisions, or you're going to experience unwholesome results when you make unwise decisions. So the teachings of the Buddha are to help you gain this wisdom, so that then more and more you have that wisdom on board, and you'll naturally make wiser decisions about the way you interact in the world. So everything you learn, whether it's from me or from anybody else, it's important to never believe the teachings of the Buddha, because belief isn't going to get you to this enlightened mental state where the mind can be peaceful and joyful permanently. You need to have wisdom about how to train the mind and the world around you, so that then with that wisdom you can navigate the world more readily. So I'm going to pause here and just see what questions you guys have. I actually don't have anything to present to you in terms of a topic today, because on Wednesdays I leave it open to all the students to ask any and all questions that you like. Where on other days and other courses and other classes, I have certain topics that I discuss and share with you guys to guide you through the teachings, where students do ask questions on those days too. But on Wednesdays, I usually just do meditation, and then I will open up to any and all questions that you guys have. So if you guys have questions here at the temple, or you have questions online, you're welcome to ask those if you like. Hello, little kitty. Hello. Hello. We have a little new student. Does somebody have a question here? Yeah, you have a question? And by the way, like I mentioned, you guys can keep these mics with you and share them around, or maybe you have an additional question after your first one even. Hello. Would you like some food? Yes, you're probably hungry. Where's your mommy? Sometimes the batteries go out.
Hi. I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this question, but I guess I've always been taught that a lot of these sort of negative human emotions that you mentioned, such as like fear, anger, sadness, that's just part of the human condition. And so I'm trying to resolve this idea of how do you get rid of those while still maintaining your humanity? So if you could speak on that.
Sure. So there's a very first teaching of the Buddha that you usually learn when you first get started. It's called the Four Noble Truths. This will help you to be able to independently see for yourself what's causing these feelings. And typically we do accept, as we are having a lack of wisdom, that, this is just the way humans are, that we're going to experience these emotions and we just kind of deal with it. And we try to cope with these feelings. But in reality, when you learn the Four Noble Truths, which I can give you a little summarized version of them, you can independently verify that your mind's causing these discontent feelings itself, because oftentimes we blame these discontent feelings on others. We will say, you are making me angry, or you are frustrating me, or that situation is annoying me. But in reality, it's the mind causing it itself due to something called craving, desire, attachment. This is wants and expectations, the longing, the yearning, the chasing after the objects of your affection. So if you've ever been in the mall, for example, and you saw a brand new pair of shoes and you were like, brand new pair of shoes. Yes. Or new jewelry or new clothes, or, oh, wow, I got a new boyfriend or a new girlfriend. Wow. Oh, I feel so much pleasure now. Well, you got those pleasant feelings of happiness and excitement based on a condition. And that condition was the mind got what it wanted. It got what it expected. That craving, desire, attachment, that longing and yearning got fulfilled. But that craving that you had, like, let's just say the mind was craving for it to be sunny. And now when you see it sunny, you'll be happy, right? But now when the sun goes away, because your happiness was based on the sun, and the sun is impermanent, it's not permanent. When the sun goes away, your mind will move to sadness or frustration or agitation, because the mind's basing its inner feelings in the unenlightened state on some condition. And every condition around you, it's impermanent, it's temporary. So that means your feeling of happiness is also temporary, it's impermanent. So as you base your inner feelings on the sun or your bank account, or whether you have a new boyfriend or girlfriend or your job, your emotions will go up and down because the mind's basing its inner feelings on some condition. So now it'll be happy when it gets what it wants, and then when it's not getting what it wants, it'll feel sad or angry or frustrated, some painful feeling that it'll experience. So this is the unenlightened mind going up and down and up and down. So when you eradicate the mind's craving, the longing, the yearning, the desire, the wanting things to be a certain way, trying to control the world to be a certain way, then you can eradicate these discontent feelings. But as long as the mind doesn't understand what the problem is, and usually I walk through the Four Noble Truths, it takes me about an hour to explain it to people, and then you can independently verify it. You can see the truth for yourself that the mind's causing these discontent feelings. Because as long as the mind believes that these feelings are being caused by something external, you will typically push people away out of your life, or you will push the situation out of your life, thinking that that's going to solve the problem. But it never solves the problem, because you just get irritated, annoyed over and over and over again about something else. Or you will be bitter and harsh and hostile towards someone, almost like an animal trying to fear that person into doing things your way. And then that doesn't work either, because you just end up breaking up in relationships, and people go away from you, and you can't live harmoniously with all people. The number of people you can spend time with becomes fewer and fewer and fewer. Or the third thing that the unenlightened mind will do when it lacks wisdom of what the real problem is it will put its expectations on people and try to control them to do things your way, and wanting people to do things your way. So as long as the mind misunderstands what the problem is, thinking it's something external, or this is just the human condition and I got to relegate myself to these feelings, then it won't understand what the real problem is, so it can't implement a real solution. So it'll keep pushing people away, pushing situations away, being bitter, harsh, and hostile, and people will leave out of your life. Or you'll put your expectations on people, and then they'll feel pressured, and they'll leave out of your life with that too. So you can get to a point where you understand what the real problem is, you understand what the solution is and how to solve it, and you can apply those techniques to your practice, and you can uproot these pollutions out of your mind, and then you'll see that the mind becomes more peaceful and more liberated through eliminating your cravings, desires, attachments. So there's Four Noble Truths explains the problem is discontentedness, the conditional feelings, that's the problem. The cause of that problem is the craving, desire, attachment, the mental longing, the strong eagerness, the chasing after the objects of your affection, wanting things to be permanent when in reality you live in an impermanent world. The third noble truth is that you can eliminate your discontentedness by eliminating craving, desire, attachment. There's certain training that you employ to eliminate the longing, yearning, the craving, the chasing after the objects of your affection, thinking the next new shiny object waiting around the corner is going to provide some lasting satisfaction. And then the fourth noble truth is that it's the Eightfold Path that is the path. It's 8 individual factors that you dial into your life closer and closer that'll help you to be able to then train your mind to eradicate the causes and conditions that are producing these discontent feelings, so that then you can experience the peace and the liberation of the mind. So I'll just show you this graphic because I happen to have it right here. That is the Eightfold Path. That there's 8 individual factors, and it starts with right view. What right view is having the right view that your mind is causing your own discontent feelings, because as long as you blamed other people for your discontent feelings, you'll never actually solve the problem, because it's not other people that are causing you to be angry and frustrated. That's why you keep going around and around and around and around, keep experiencing the same agitation, the same annoyance, the same frustrations over and over and over and over again, because the mind just lacks wisdom of what the real problem is. But when you understand what the real problem is and you implement the real solution, then you actually see the real results. And that's where the teachings of the Buddha will help you to do that. And it takes time to gradually learn this and gradually practice and gradually experience the results. So I don't know if I gave you enough there to help you understand, but you're welcome to ask follow-up questions if you like. Looks like we have a question here coming in on YouTube. Lily's asking, as an unenlightened mind, it is difficult to imagine the state of enlightenment. My question is, for enlightened minds, why are they filled with joy and peace, but not emptiness? So the joy and the peace is because of the emptiness, that the mind is full of wisdom, it's full of these mental states, right? These mental states of peace and joy, these are mental states that are just always permeating in the mind, because you've eliminated the causes and conditions, you've eliminated the pollutions of mind. And some people refer to that as emptiness, when you eliminate the pollutions of mind. And it's because of that the mind then experiences the peace and the calmness, the serenity, the contentedness, the joy, the concentration, the focus, the clarity of mind, the deep memory. You'll notice that you can have personal, professional relationships that will really blossom, and you'll have the ability to never have a bad mood anymore. This is what the enlightened mind will experience. And that's because of the emptiness, that the mind has eradicated the pollutions. And then it looks like there's another question here from Lily. Is it a choice to put peace into the mind? It's a choice to eradicate the pollutions of the mind that are hindering you from experiencing the peace. So you're not putting the peace in the mind. You're not basing your peace on any particular thing. Like somebody might think like, okay, if I'm on the beach and it's quiet and, I'm hearing the light waves come over the sea, everything's perfect, I will be peaceful in that environment. But the mind is still having a conditioned feeling there. It can only experience that happiness when certain conditions are met. But now, as soon as a fire truck goes by with a blaring siren, the peace is gone, right? Because the mind is attached, or it's craving, it's wanting things to be a certain way. It's not realizing that things are impermanent in the world. So when you train your mind to not long and yearn and crave, and you eradicate these pollutions, whether you're sitting on a beach or you're sitting on the back of a bus with a diesel engine blaring and music blaring, you can still maintain your peace and joy. But when you have craving for things to be different than they are, then that's where your mind isn't going to be able to be peaceful, that it's longing, yearning for something other than that is existing. It's like the unenlightened mind always thinks the grass on the other side of the fence is greener. So it always wants to go to the other side. It's never content with where it's at. So it always wants to go to the other side of the fence and see if the grass is greener over there. And then it gets over there and it's like, oh, the grass isn't any greener over here than it was over there. So you need to learn how to train your mind, how to be peaceful and joyful in any particular situation, realizing that everything's impermanent. So like right now, it sounds like there's some truck or something going by, making some kind of noise, going by. No big deal. It's impermanent. It doesn't affect the mind. If you don't have a craving for there to be a certain sound in the environment, now like, okay, this particular sound is nice, but it's impermanent. There's going to be a sound that comes by. There's going to be a car. There's going to be someone honk their horn. There's going to be a siren. One day I was teaching class. There was a band outside playing music for like an hour while I was in here teaching, and we were meditating with a band right outside the door, beating drums and playing flutes and all kinds of stuff, right? So it's impermanent. It happened once, and I've been teaching here for many years. So these kinds of things are going to happen. But if your mind's craving to see certain things, to hear certain things, to smell certain things, to taste certain things on your tongue, to have certain things come in contact with the body or certain thoughts in the mind, you will be discontent. Because when you have craving, you see things as agreeable and you see things as disagreeable. And when you get the agreeable contact through your sense bases, you will experience pleasant feelings, but they're conditional. So they fade away. So they're ultimately unsatisfying. That's why you haven't been able to get to permanent happiness, because you're trying to base your happiness on money, or whether I have a boyfriend or girlfriend, or my job, or my house, or my car, or my clothes, or my jewelry, or something else, the weather, right? As long as you're basing your inner feelings on some condition, you'll never get to happiness that's permanent, that the mind's going to go up into the happiness. But then when those conditions change, when the sun goes away, when your bank account balance drops, when you no longer have a boyfriend or girlfriend, when your job changes, when your boss does this, you'll be angry, you'll be frustrated, you'll be sad, because you're basing your inner feelings on some condition. So you can eradicate all of this from the mind through training the mind. And this is a personal choice to make the decision for yourself that you're done with the painful feelings. You're done with your mind going up and down. You're done with the grief and the sadness and the frustration and the annoyance and the broken relationships. And when you're done with all that stuff, the teachings of the Buddha are here to help you to understand how to train your mind to get to the peace and the joy. But not everybody's at a place in their life where they're ready to do that. And that's where it's always a personal choice. It's your own personal journey to enlightenment. A teacher is here to guide you and provide you the resources and the help along the way, but it's always your choice. It's your choice to meditate. It's your choice to come to the temple. It's your choice to talk to your teacher privately. It's your choice to read the book or watch videos or anything else you might do in order to progress to enlightenment. So everything in life is your choice. There's only one thing that you have to do, and yet you're required to do this no matter what. Every single one of us are required to do this, and it's to die. That's the only thing. Every single one of us have to do that. We don't have a choice. It's going to happen. But if you make the choice to train your mind, this will be your last death. You won't keep experiencing death over and over and over and over and over and over again. That's what we've been experiencing. Even the cycle of rebirth that the Buddha taught, this is independently verifiable. You might not have the wisdom to understand how to verify that right now, but the cycle of rebirth is independently verifiable. And death is something that we have been doing countless times, but we can make the choice for this to be our last death if that's what we choose to do. And you can see your mind moving closer and closer to enlightenment as it's becoming more peaceful and more joyful. And you'll be able to ultimately verify the cycle of rebirth as you get deeper and deeper to understand the teachings. So thank you for your teachings, Lily. Oh, you have more questions here? Great. Thanks a lot, David. Then is being enlightened a condition of being joyful? No, there's no condition that is producing the enlightenment. So there's conditional experiences, which are based on some condition, but then there's unconditional objects, which conditional objects arise, they change, and they fade away. They're impermanent. That's what a conditioned object is. An enlightened being has purified their mind, that their mind no longer has any conditions in the mind, that you've eradicated the causes and conditions. So the mind is now unconditioned. It's now purified. So the peace and the joy that you experience, it's just always there. That's why it's permanent, that it's unconditioned, that the peace and the joy you experience isn't based on any condition. So in the unenlightened mind, you're basing your feelings and your decisions based on certain conditions. But in the enlightened mind, you're not basing your feelings or your mental states on any kind of condition. So you don't need any condition to be met in order to be peaceful. So in the unenlightened mind, for example, if there's a war that breaks out, you might be sad, you might be frustrated, you might be angry based on the condition that there's a war. And then when there's no war in the world, maybe you'll be peaceful about that particular thing. There'll be other things that you'll probably be upset about in the unenlightened state, but that particular thing you won't be upset about. The enlightened mind, if there's no war, they're already peaceful before there was no war. But if there is a war, they can maintain their peace despite there being a war. They're not peaceful because of the war. They're peaceful despite there being a war. That the mind in the unenlightened state doesn't understand that no war is not permanent. It's not permanent. That there's going to be situations because of individuals in the world having pollutions in their mind. There's going to be people who decide, hey, I want your land. They have craving, they have anger, they have ignorance. These three pollutions that we talk about as the three poisons. Someone might say, hey, I want your land. Give me your land. And the other country says, no, I'm not giving you my land. Oh, really? You're not going to give me what I want? Okay, I'm going to send some soldiers in there to try to fear you into giving me what I want. And now we're going to kill you until you give us what we want. And this is from the mind's craving, from the anger, and from the ignorance or the unknowing of true reality. So an enlightened being understands that they can't control whether there's a war or not. There's other beings that are making those decisions, and you can't control whether there is a war or not. Sometimes people think that it's love or care that is causing their painful feelings. Like if your parents die or your grandparents die or your brothers or sisters die or you break up with your life partner, you might think that it's love that's causing you to be angry or sad or frustrated, but it's not the love. Love is a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. What's causing you to be angry or frustrated when you break up with your boyfriend or girlfriend is your craving for the relationship to be permanent. The mind's longing, yearning, wanting this relationship to be permanent. Same thing when grandma and grandpa die. It's not love that's causing you to be upset or grieve in that situation. It's the mind craving and holding on, wanting grandma and grandpa to be permanent. But yet they're impermanent. Just like this relationship, it's impermanent. Just like the sun, it's impermanent. Just like your bank account, it's impermanent. Just like this physical body, it's impermanent. All these things around you are impermanent, but the unenlightened mind, with its lack of wisdom, wants it to be permanent. It craves for it to be permanent. And as long as the mind's getting what it wants, it'll be happy. But because everything around you is impermanent, when things start changing, that's where you end up in the painful feelings. So the enlightened mind is unconditioned. The peace and the joy and all those other mental qualities that I talked about, those are being experienced because you've purified the mind, you've eradicated the pollutions, and now the natural mind, the brightness and the radiance can shine through that was always there to begin with, but you've got to clear out that pollution in order for the mind to experience these qualities of enlightenment, where it's no longer basing its inner feelings on some condition. You need to essentially retrain the mind, because the mind's going to want to have these conditioned feelings like, oh, it's sunny. Okay, I'm going to get happy. Oh, my bank account is this. Okay, I'm going to get happy. But then all those things changing, now the mind experiences the sadness or anger. So the enlightened mind doesn't do that. It's like, okay, my bank account's that balance, so be it. And when it goes down, okay, so be it. All this is impermanent. The mind's not craving for these things to be permanent. Oh, it's sunny out? Okay, great, fine, let's go have a good time. Oh, it's raining out? Okay, we can still have a good time when it's raining too. No big deal. right? We can do something else. But in the unenlightened state, the mind's craving things to be a certain way. And that's what's causing these discontent feelings. I don't know if you guys have any more questions. Lily's got some more questions here. Feel free to chime in if you guys have more questions. Lily's saying, I see. So once the mind is enlightened, it will stay that way. No way back. That's correct. Once you get to the first stage of enlightenment, there's 4 individual stages of enlightenment. Once you get to the first stage of enlightenment, your mind won't regress backwards from there. And when you get to the 4th stage, surely your mind's not going to regress from there. But all the way up to the first stage of enlightenment, your mind can actually regress if you become complacent. So there's these 4 phases that the mind goes through before it gets to the first stage of enlightenment. In these 4 phases, we refer to them as the jhanas. These are like preliminary phases that the mind experiences. These are heightened qualities of mind that the mind experiences. And as you're moving through those jhanas, if you got complacent for any reason, your mind can backslide. It can regress. But by the time you get to the first stage of enlightenment, it won't regress. You'll only experience forward progress from that point forward. And once you get to enlightenment, it's a permanent mental state. It's physically impossible for the mind that is enlightened to ever get angry or frustrated or irritated or annoyed or any kind of discontentedness whatsoever. It's just not possible. Any questions here? You guys have anything to ask? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I have some question about meditation practice. Okay. Before I meditation at home, firstly, about 2 minutes, I focus on my breath in and out. And then some question or topic will into my mind. Not emotion, just topic, such as what should I do in today? What the most important mission in my life? So my question is, should I focus on the breath all the time? Or I can think about the topic deeper and deeper? Thank you.
Sure, I'll help you. So meditation is to train your mind to develop certain qualities that are going to then help you in daily life. Meditation isn't to think about things and sort out your life and put together a grocery list or a to-do list or what you're going to do today. That's what you do outside of meditation, is figure out all those kinds of things. So in this meditation, this is called Breathing Mindfulness Meditation, where you're focused on the breath and the mind moves off the breath. You cut it off, let it go, and you bring your mind back to the breath. You're developing the wholesome qualities of mindfulness or awareness of mind, and concentration, which is focus and clarity, being able to focus on a single object. These are the 2 wholesome qualities that you're developing: awareness of mind or mindfulness and concentration. And you're developing the ability to cut off and let go. Let go, let go, let go. Because that's what is causing the mind to be discontent, is the craving, the desire, the holding on. The mind doesn't want to let go. It's craving permanence. So if 20, 30, 50 times during your meditation, you have to let go, let go, let go, let go, and keep coming back to the breath, this is really helpful for your mind. You would like to do that. So where you have a thought that comes into the mind, if you notice that, as soon as you notice it, cut it off, let it go, and come back to the breath. And now cut it off and let it go and come back to the breath. In meditation, you're cutting off anything and everything that comes up. But in daily life, you're only cutting off the unwholesome qualities or unwholesome thoughts. So we're training in meditation one way, but we're doing something different in daily life. It's much like a professional athlete. A professional athlete will have a certain sport and they'll train in the gym in one way and their sport will be completely different. Like a pole vaulter, they'll go in the gym and do weight training, cardiovascular training, agility training, but their sport looks completely different than what they did in the gym. So it's the same thing. You're exercising the mind in meditation. And when you're exercising the mind, you're building certain qualities. And now you use those qualities in daily life, that now you have awareness of your mind in daily life. You walk into a business meeting and you see something and you notice your frustration starting to arise, you can cut it off and let it go. But if you're not training your mind in meditation, you can't do that. your mind's going to get frustrated. You're going to get angry. You're going to talk bad to your coworkers. You're going to maybe say something to your boss that's inappropriate, and now you get fired, right? Because your mind, you can't control it. You don't have this mental discipline that the Buddha taught, right? So you would like to be training your mind in meditation where you focus on the breath, and whenever you notice it moves off the breath, don't even think about it. Just cut it off and bring the mind back to the breath. Your goal isn't to eliminate your thoughts in meditation. This isn't actually possible. Even when you're enlightened, you're still going to have thoughts. But the difference is that when you first start with meditation for the first many months, you'll probably have bombardment of thoughts where your mind will be like thought. Or you'll have a thought and then you'll indulge in that thought for a period of time. You'll be thinking about it for 2 or 3 minutes. And you're like, oh yeah, that's right. I'm meditating. Let me bring my mind back. And you'll kind of bring it back. So this is what the unenlightened mind does because it's untrained and it's undisciplined. It'll have lots of thoughts or it'll indulge in a thought for a period of time before it realizes to come back. By the time you get to enlightenment, your mind will be so well trained that you'll notice the thought as soon as it happens, and you'll be able to cut it off and let it go right away and bring the mind back to the breath. And then you'll have this long period of peace and joy. I mean, the mind will even be peaceful and joyful when you're having a thought, but you'll have this long period of time where the mind will be still and quieted, right? In between your thoughts, there'll be this stillness and quietness that didn't exist when you were unenlightened. So as you're getting closer and closer to enlightenment, you'll see more and more peace and more joy in the mind, more and more stillness and quietness coming into the mind. Where initially, when you first started meditating, maybe you got 1 second of that or 2 seconds of that here and there. Where as you get closer and closer to enlightenment, clearing out more and more of this pollution, you'll get these longer and longer periods of quietness and stillness in the mind. So you'll need to cut off and let go of any thoughts that arise during meditation with the understanding that you will have thoughts. You'll always have thoughts, but they'll slow down and there'll be longer and longer periods of peacefulness in between. And then in your daily life, you'd like to only cut off the unwholesome thoughts that are coming up. And you learn about what are the wholesome thoughts and what are the unwholesome thoughts as you're learning the path to enlightenment. The Buddha helps you understand these qualities, and then you don't believe his teachings. You learn them, you reflect on them to independently verify them, and you practice them. And this is where you see more and more improvement in your life and in the condition of your mind as well. Mm-hmm. Yes, you're welcome. So I think you had a question? Yep.
Oh, I don't know if this only happens to me, but sometimes when I do the meditation, and I will feel like some itchiness from a random part of my body, and the more I'm trying to suppress the feeling, and the more serious it becomes. Like it's forcing me to scratch it. Mm-hmm. So how do I overcome this?
Sure. So this is common that you have like physical sensations in the body and you're never interested in suppressing anything. So like sometimes when I teach about cutting off your thoughts and things like that, some people think you're suppressing your thoughts or suppressing your emotions or feelings, but that's actually not what you're doing. You're eliminating the causes and conditions that are producing the unwholesome aspects of the mind. So that's you're actually catching it before it becomes a feeling when you understand what's called the 4 foundations of mindfulness. But in terms of bodily sensations, like say you're sitting and you feel an itch in the body, what I suggest students to do is try not to itch it. Initially, try not to itch it. Just stay focused on the breath. And your mind's going to go to the itch, and your mind's going to the itch, and you just try to cut it off and bring your mind back to the breath. But let's just say you're 3 seconds, 5 seconds into this, and you're just like, oh man, I got an itch. Okay, go ahead and itch it, right? Go ahead and scratch it. And then next time it happens, because it's going to happen again, try to elongate that. Try to make it 6 seconds or 8 seconds or 10 seconds. Right? And then now, okay, just got an itch. Okay, so now next time, make it 12 seconds, 15 seconds. Eventually, you'll get to the point where you'll understand this itch is impermanent and you'll be able to maintain your focus on the breath. You'll see the itch, it arises, it changes, and then it fades away. It's gone. It's impermanent. And you didn't let this outside external thing affect your peacefulness or your joy. You can even get to the point where you have flies crawling around on your head and mosquitoes buzzing around, and it doesn't disturb you or affect you whatsoever. So that's what you can do with itches, and it really helps you to train your mind to to be unaffected by impermanence. That's essentially what the mind's having difficulties with. Is the same way to say the mind's craving permanence is to say the mind does not like impermanence. It does not like change. The mind in the unenlightened state, it doesn't like change. So when you're sitting here and your body feels completely comfortable, okay, that feels good. But then when you feel that little itch, the mind's like, that's annoying. I don't like that, because that's impermanence. And the mind's craving this permanent comfort of the body. And it's just not possible in the unenlightened state to have that permanent comfort. So if you need to itch it, go ahead, but then try to elongate it for longer and longer periods until you ultimately get to the point where it doesn't affect your mind whatsoever. You can just stay focused on the breath. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Do you have a mic back there? Yeah. I think I didn't see who got the mics first, but I'll just go to Robert first, and then if you'd like to go next. Oh, okay. Robert's giving over to you.
I have a question about the real life situation, because it's like I'm encountering a kind of trauma that from my work. It's a very toxic and tension environment that I'm trying to heal myself from meditation. In meditation, that I sometimes can feel the peace, but outside the meditation, that in work environment, that I feel a bit trauma. That I feel I'm in a trauma, that I'm suffering, not feeling peace again, and sometimes feeling that I'm under great stress. I want to ask that how can I to utilize the meditation effect to maintain a more peaceful in work?
Okay, sure. Can you provide me a couple of examples of some of the things that you're thinking are traumatic about your work environment?
Okay, I'm in consulting environments in Big Four that we are maintaining very dramatic change from client demands, some a big gap between the expectation from client and our current situation, that we are doing something, some hard tasks that our client that didn't want to do. They just want to pick the external source to help them to finish it. It's like get our hands dirty, and yeah, we are. And the environment is not very good, that we are finding very hard to make more deals and trying to sacrifice some of our well-beings to just to make the works happen.
Okay, so these are choices and decisions that you're making that are leading to these particular results. That if you're in a work environment where you're craving and you're longing, you're yearning, you're wanting things to be a certain way, and then the customer is wanting that also, and then like you say, there's this gap. They expect this and you guys are maybe delivering this, right? And maybe their expectations keep growing. Even though you meet their expectations, maybe their expectations grow and it keeps growing. So this is where you need to be able to manage this process, right? It's like, okay, customer, we made a contract and we agreed to this and this is what we're going to work to. And then when the customer says, oh, our expectations changed. Okay, sure, we can change the contract, but now there's a difference in cost and a difference in our timeline. This is where good project management skills come in. Having good project managers to be able to make sure that they write a contract and they agree on what's going to be delivered. And then when there's any changes, there's requests that are made, there's documentation, there's adjustments to timeline, there's adjustment to budget, there's adjustment to requirements. Because whenever you have a change in requirements, it's going to absolutely change the budget and change the timeline. So if there's not somebody there at your job that's managing all of that, and now the workers are having to, maybe just do things to just deliver while sacrificing themselves, that's something that the workers are choosing to do. You could choose to leave that company, right? But sometimes the mind's holding on to the money or holding on to the title or holding on to the friends or the work location. The mind's clinging and holding on. It's craving. It doesn't want to let go of these things. So you need to make some choices for yourself, because it's not the work itself that's causing your mind to be discontent in these traumatic experiences that you're explaining. It's not the outside things that are causing the difficulties inside the mind. It's the mind's craving, it's the desire, it's the attachment, it's the longing, it's the yearning. So while you are affected by these kinds of things, you can train your mind to be unaffected by them. But right now, you don't have the wisdom of how to do that. You would need to learn the entire Eightfold Path. And as you learn this entire Eightfold Path, it gives you the tools and the techniques through gaining wisdom of how to train your mind, so that now, little by little, you can make different choices in your life, because the choices you're making now are leading to that stress and maybe anxiety and other things that you're experiencing in terms of your emotions. But you can't just change your work environment and experience different results, because your mind is still having the same decision making. It still has the same cravings, the same desires. So choosing to change to a different work environment, while that can potentially be helpful if the environment is really toxic, but it doesn't sound like that's the case. It just sounds like there's a project manager that's needed in order to manage the client's contracts and the expectations. But if that's not realistic, if that's not something that's going to happen, you might have to decide to move to another location, to another job or another project or something like this. So these are choices that you need to be able to see clearly for yourself. And yes, meditation will help you, and all these teachings will help you, but it ultimately comes down to certain decisions that you make. That's why when I gave that little intro about the teachings of the Buddha, I was explaining how wise decisions lead to wholesome results and unwise decisions lead to unwholesome results. Well, one of the unwise decisions that the mind's going to have in a work environment like that is where you're coming in with the craving, the desire, the expectation. And then when the clients have their expectations, the employees are adopting those expectations for themselves and saying, oh my goodness, we got to do this, we got to do this, we got to do this, we got to perform for the boss, we got to perform for the customer. And now when you've adopted their expectation, and now the mind is longing and yearning for that thing, and it can only be happy if it gets that thing. And then when you don't get it, that's when the mind gets the painful feelings. So the more you learn this entire Eightfold Path, that's what's going to help you. Sure, you can start with meditation, you can start with these kinds of things, but meditation alone isn't going to solve your problems, just like everyone else. Everybody else is the same thing, that you need meditation, yes, but there's a whole lot of other things that you need too besides meditation. So what I would encourage you to do is this first book of the book series that I share, I would encourage you to get a version of it, that you can get it online for free. You can download it at no cost. You can take it and go print it if you like, and print it yourself. You can get printed versions here at the temple by just reimbursing us for our printing costs, or you can order it on Amazon if you have access to Amazon where you live. If you start with that first book, then you can learn chapter by chapter, and you can attend these classes on Sundays and Wednesdays at 9 a.m. or 9 p.m. I teach here at the temple at 9 a.m. and then I live stream it throughout the world. And then at 9 p.m. I teach from home, and I live stream that as well. So no matter where you are, you should be able to get a live class on Sunday or Wednesday. And where you can't get a live class, then you have the ability to watch the recording because it's recorded. Because slowly but surely, you're going to need to learn the teachings that it takes for you to train your mind to experience different results. I couldn't give you anything in just 2 minutes or 3 minutes is going to completely solve your issues, because it's a gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress to acquire the wisdom that you need to consistently train your mind over a long-term period. And that's where you'll see the results, as you're consistently training your mind. So that's why the best thing I can share with you is, okay, what you're experiencing is normal for the unenlightened mind. It's not the outside thing. It's not the work environment that's causing this. It's what's going on in your own mind. And there is a solution for you, but you'll need to take action to be able to download the book or get access to the book, to attend classes, get some personal help from time to time. You can schedule personal guidance. All of this is available for you at no cost, and then you can gradually experience improved results for yourself. Mm-hmm.
For meditation, I know you talk about going back to the feeling of breathing or the skin. Mm-hmm. For me, it helps to also do like my eyes, back to the darkness of my eyes. Is that okay? Are there other senses we can use, or is it only the feeling of breathing?
So the Buddha taught to focus on the breath. And the reason why is because the breath is the present moment, like that's right now. The unenlightened mind is going to want to be in the past, or it's going to want to be in the future. It's going to wander around. It's going to look for something else to grab onto. So what you would like to do is root it on the present moment, so that when the mind's wandering around, you have an anchor to pull it back to. So the breath is that anchor. It's like a post or a pillar. And if you have these animals that are tied to the post and pillar, and it's pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling, eventually those animals keep getting yanked back more and more. And eventually they're like, hey, we're not going to go anywhere because we're tied to this post and pillar. We're just going to sit down here by this post or pillar, right? Because the mind just realizes, or the animal just realizes that, hey, I can't pull and tug anymore. It's not going to produce anything beneficial. So the mind is going to do the same thing. It's just going to keep pulling and pulling and tugging for many, many months and many years. But you keep pulling it back and pulling it back and pulling it back to the breath. So I've never brought it back to the eyes, because the breath is the present moment, and that's what the Buddha taught. So some of the meditations that we do, it's with the eyes open. So if you got fixated on the darkness of the eyes being closed, those meditations you would be challenged in. So you would like to get used to breathing on the breath, so that then no matter whether your eyes are open or your eyes are closed, you'd be able to still meditate. And you've developed a practice where you only need 3 things: the body, the mind, and the breath. Those are the only 3 things you need to meditate. Like candles and incense and beads and gongs and all these other things. You don't need these things to meditate with. These are just things that the mind's grabbing onto. So the mind in the unenlightened state, it's a master. It's going to look for so many things to grab onto and hold on to something. But if you can just train to focus on the breath, then you only need those 3 things to meditate, which is the body, the mind, and the breath. And you'll have those with you for the rest of your life.
And is that the feeling of the breath, or what is it? What does it mean to focus on the breath specifically?
Yeah, so usually you're focusing on the sound coming in, like that sound that you're getting, or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. In that sound or that sensation over the skin, that's going to designate the present moment. And that's your post or your pillar that you're now tying your mind to, and you're bringing it back and bringing it back and bringing it back.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Do you guys have any other questions here at the temple? Okay, let's see. I'm not seeing any other questions anywhere. I see your thank yous there, Lily. You're welcome. Pleased to help you. So what I'll do then is I'll just end class by thanking all of you guys for joining, thanking you guys for deciding to come to the temple today, and that today's a day that you'd like to learn the teachings of the Buddha. As you would like to receive help, you're more than welcome to reach out for help. A class like this, there's very little things that I'm teaching. I'm just teaching based on what it is that you guys are asking. But if you'd like to attend one of our courses or retreats or one of our programs that is consistent and ongoing over a long-term period, this is where you're going to learn the teachings that are really going to help you to get to enlightenment. And these are all available to you at no cost, whether it's the ongoing programs, the courses, retreats, the books, the videos, the podcasts, even the personal guidance to sit down and talk from time to time. I'm here to help all of you guys. You just need to decide that it's something that you would like to do in order to get your mind to the point where you're only ever experiencing peace and joy, and your relationships can be harmonious. It's something for each individual to decide for themselves. So I'd just like to let you guys know about a few classes that we have coming up. Tomorrow and Friday, we have a child's retreat that if you have children, or if even you're a parent and you'd like to just come and see how I teach children the teachings of the Buddha, teaching them meditation and concentration and mindfulness, that starts tomorrow at 9 a.m. and it goes until 12. And I'm doing that on Thursday and Friday from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. For just 3 hours each day. Then on Saturday, we have our Pali Canon and English study group, which is where we study with the original words of the Buddha. On Sunday, we have our group learning program, which is this program, which is a foundational program, Sunday and Wednesdays. I'm going to be teaching what's called the 10 fetters and the 4 stages of enlightenment. The 10 fetters are the 10 individual pollutions that the Buddha discovered in the unenlightened mind. I'm going to teach you what those are and help you to get kind of an introduction to them and a little bit of how to eradicate them as well. And then on Monday, I'm going to be starting a 5-day course, which is titled Harmony in Relationships. It's going to be teachings that you need in order to develop harmonious relationships in your life, whether it's with your parents, your siblings, your brothers, your sisters, life partners, children, anybody and everybody. It's going to help you even in the workplace. I teach things about the workplace, about how to train your mind to have these harmonious relationships. And it just takes you wisdom to be able to learn how to do that. So we start on Monday at 9 a.m. and it goes until 3 p.m. And this is Monday through Friday. And we take an hour and a half lunch. It's going to be here at the temple. And we also live stream it as well. So even if you're not going to be in Thailand, if you'd like to join by Zoom or Facebook or YouTube, you can do any of those things. So again, thank you all for being here. Thank you for your interest to learn the teachings of the Buddha, because as you learn and train your mind, it helps you, it helps those close to you, because you're going to be more peaceful, more joyful, and it helps all of humanity become a more peaceful place. So thank you all for joining, and perhaps we'll see you guys in a future class. Have a very lovely and wonderful rest of your day. Sawadee krap. Sawadee krap. Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.